stamping friends, it's Ginger from Stamping the Cape. I hope everyone had a lovely holiday season and that your new year is starting off peacefully. It's been a long while since you've heard from me, and I've made one New Year's resolution, and that is to be more consistent with my videos. I'm starting a new program of recording my monthly Stamp Club projects, and if you have all the products, you can follow right along with me, or if you place a $35 minimum order, that's before tax and shipping, and use my hostess code for the month, I'll send you the packet of supplies to complete the 3 projects. This month's theme is Valentine's Day, and now that the new Occasions catalog is here, I'll be using supplies from the Meant to Be bundle, which is on page 6 of the Occasions catalog, and I'll also be using the Stitched Labels Framelits dies, which are in the annual catalog. There'll be a PDF instruction sheet on my blog that has all the materials listed that you need with the sizes, and I will provide links to my videos. There'll be 3 separate videos for the projects. This is the first project we'll be doing, which is a typical Valentine's Day card, but I'm going to change up the sentiment a little bit, but you can also do a happy birthday or congratulations or I'm proud of you or whatever you want to do. And then I'll do another video on this card, which is also pretty much a Valentine's card, but again, using some different products, and I'll talk about those later. You'll be able to change that up. And then I'm doing a little gift card holder. I want to do a shout out to Erica Serwin at Pink Buckaroo, who did this idea using one of our treat dies, and it's just a little gift card holder, but it's cute how it comes out. And I've used the Designer Series paper, All My Love, that's in the catalog as well, just to decorate this little gift card holder. So let's get started. No more chatting. And we're going to start with the first project. And also don't forget, it's Celebration, and that means from January through March, for every $50 purchase from the annual catalog, the Occasions catalog, the clearance rack, that's again before tax and shipping, you can pick a free item from the Celebration catalog. And this is also a great time to host a workshop, because if your workshops total $250 or more, you get an additional $25 in free product. And also there's some great benefits if you decide to join Stampin' Up. You don't have to be a demonstrator as far as hosting workshops. If you'd just like to be a hobby demonstrator, you can get $175 in product for just $99, which is an incredible deal. And there's another option to get this really nifty craft tote, which is for a limited time. It's about a $50 value. You can get still the $75 in product, the tote, for $129. So that's another really good deal. And I apologize for the shadows. I'm losing my daylight. We've got a little bit of a storm coming through, so I'm trying to set up the lighting correctly here. So let's get started. As I said, we're going to be making this card, and so this is what you'll get in your packet. And what I've done on this card, we're going to start with the embossing. When I made this card originally, I used the Stampin' Blends, but I found the colors on Crumb Cake weren't as bright or as brilliant. So we're going to be using the Stampin' Write markers instead. And as I said, I'm going to be doing these videos. I'm going to try to limit how much I edit, because that way you can see all the, as I've heard said, you can see all the warts and all the bumps and bruises as I go along. So we're going to emboss, and I'm going to use my embossing buddy to take the static off my cardstock. This helps when you use embossing powder. It helps it from clinging in areas that you don't want it to cling. And generally when I have a stamp that's larger than my ink pad, I will flip the stamp over and then stamp. I just find I get better coverage that way, but you may decide to do it differently. And I just use a piece of copy paper to sprinkle my embossing powder on. It's easier for me to just dump it back in my little container. Some folks like to use Tupperware containers or plastic containers like that. I just find this works for me. And I can just pour it back in. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my heat tool, and I use a little skewer to hold the paper down from flying around because it can get a little bit hot. So you might want to block your ears for a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of noise. And one of the exciting things about heat embossing is when you see the embossing powder start to change, especially when you're doing metallics. They really are very impressive as it starts to shine because it looks so dull in the beginning. And as you can see, you may see it's starting to change now. And once it starts, it goes pretty quickly. Almost done. I just want to make sure. Okay. So now I'm going to color in my heart, and I'm going to use my sample as the example, the sample example. So I'm going to start with Lovely Lipstick, and I'm going to use the brush side of my marker. And the other good thing about using Lovely Lipstick, using the Stampin' Write markers, is if your ink gets onto the embossing powder, you can just wipe it off. It doesn't cling to it. It's sort of what they call the resist, because the embossing powder won't hold the Stampin' Write markers. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to show you, when I did the blends originally, because the cardstock versus like our Whisper White or Very Vanilla is a little bit more porous, so I started to color a little bit harder, and the alcohol ink tends to bleed. And you can see right here where it started, I got a little aggressive with the ink color. So that won't happen also with the Stampin' Write markers. So let's just color more. Let's see, I need this one. And you can just go really quickly. We're just filling in some of this for color. Okay, and I think that's it for the, oops, wait a minute, I need to do these little guys over here. And then I'll do the Flirty Flamingo. And as you can see, I'm coloring more and more, and you don't get any of that bleeding like you do with the Stampin' Blends. I love the Stampin' Blends. They're like my favorite thing to really color with normally. But as I said, I think I'm going to do this one over here because I didn't on that side. Change it up a little bit. And then we'll do these in Balmy Blue. As I said, the Stampin' Blends are great. I'm not an artist by any means, but they can make you feel like an artist because it makes blending colors so much easier with the alcohol markers. All right. Okay, so I think I have that. I've got all my parts colored in. So now I'm going to do my sentiment, and as I said, this time I'm going to change the sentiment just a little bit. One of I'll show you the stamp set. Actually, I should have shown you that already. This is the Meant to Be stamp set, and it has your typical Happy Valentine's Day, and Meant to Be is what I've used on another card, but this one I'm going to use, I've used You Make Me Happy for the original card, but for this one I'm going to use To the Best Friend a Girl Could Ever Ask For. A lot of us have really close girlfriends, and we cherish them, so that would be a good sentiment. And as I said, there's lots of other options you can use, and I will be pointing some of those out in one of my next videos. So I'm using Lovely lipstick, and I'm just going to stamp it in the middle here, and I'm going to be using the Stitched Label Framelits dies to cut this out. These are the Stitched Label framelits. They go with another stamp set, but they can be used individually. And they also have these neat little edge, like stitching and a dotted line or a dash line. But we're going to be using, it's almost like a little ticket stamp. Excuse me, a little ticket die. So we're going to die cut these, and then we're going to die cut our heart, and then we're also going to die cut the larger part from the, again, the framelits that go with the Meant to Be. It comes as a bundle, and if you order it as a bundle, you save 10%. So we're going to be using this large stitched heart for that, and then we're going to be using this smaller stitched heart. And these are kind of neat because what it's going to do is it's going to cut this little frame, this little scallop frame, but it's also going to cut your inside. So you could use them in two different projects. What I've done is I've just attached the frame back on to the inner heart, but I'll show you that. So let's bring my Big Shot in. Make some room here. And I apologize for my bandage finger. I was preparing dinner last night, and I have very sharp knives, and one found my finger, so. All right. So let's get our blue piece in. We can do these all at the same time. And then we're going to die cut our heart. Just have to find where I put, there it is. And my die for that. Now I'm using my magnetic plate, but my plate is a little bent. That happens sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I use some removable tape just to hold my framelit in place so it doesn't slide. And then I'm going to be doing my sentiment, and I have to find what I did with that die. Oh, there it is. Like I said, all the warts. This is what oh, I thought that was going to fit. Dang. Well, you know what? We're going to switch. We're going to go to this one. It's a little bit longer, but we can work it out. We can make it designed that way. So we can use the little cutouts. It's always fun to play around with your dies and see what else you can do with them. So we'll get something different out of it this time. So let's stick that on and run that through. Hearing that crackling reminds me of when I very first got a Big Shot and it started making all these cracks. And then when I looked at the plate and I saw all these scarring marks, I thought I had ruined it. But that's very normal. That's what happens. So not to worry. Okay. All right, and as you can see, my removable tape just comes right off, and I can even reuse that again. So you can always use this as a little frame for another project if you wanted to, but I'm just going to toss that. So now I've got my little frame stuck inside my framelit here, so I'm just going to pop that out. Okay. And okay. So you know what I'm going to do? I like this, but I don't want to leave it rough on the edge. So I think what I'll do is I'll just trim it like this. Let's see. I'll do it like that. It'd be a little neater. Do the same on this side. Now, like I said, if you had used the original sentiment that I had used, which is the You Make Me Happy, you could use the little ticket die. But I was just trying to do something a little different, just to give an alternative to what we're going to do. So, not too bad. A little something different. All right. So all we have to do now is put our card together. Let me clean up all these pieces. Okay, so I want to use this framelit with the heart. So what I did was I just put it together, and I just used some Scotch tape and just tacked it in the back a little bit in a few places, just so it stays together on the card. I mean, we are going to be putting adhesive on and whatnot, but I just didn't want it to separate. So I'm just going to put some little pieces of tape. Just enough to hold it. All right. So we have our card base, and oh, that's right. What I'm going to do too is I'm going to take, oh, and these also, let me mention, these are our new cling mount stamps. They hold extremely well. They're not like our former clear mount stamps that used to fall off and a lot of people didn't put the labels on. These you're going to want to put the labels on because they really stick. So now you can just put it on there and you can shake it, you can pound it, and it's not going anywhere. So that's been a great innovation that Stampin' Up! Has brought in. They finally heard everyone complaining about it. So I'm going to go back to my Versamark, and again I'm going to, actually I might just use it this way. And what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of interest, I don't know if you can see it, but just so the background of the card isn't totally plain, I'm just going to randomly stamp these around, turning and switching and whatnot, just to add a little bit of interest in the back of the card, background of the card, I should say. A lot of this you won't see, but I like to do this instead of just using a plain piece of cardstock. You can sort of leave the middle empty because that will get all covered up. Do more of the outside edges. I'll just do one little bit right there. Okay. Put my cap on. All right, so we're going to take our lovely lipstick piece, and let's see, where's my sheet? I'm going to make sure, like I said, there will be a PDF, but this piece measures 3 by 4 3/4, and I'm just going to use some snail. Come on. There we go. So I've just angled these a little bit, and they kind of just fit right in there, corner to corner, just for something different in the background. And this is a piece of the DSP from the All My Love Designer Series paper. It's got the little heart arrows on the back, and this is what I'm using, the crumb cake side. And this one's going to crisscross this way. There we go. Okay, now for my heart, I've got this ribbon running back and forth behind it, and how I did that was I just applied a bunch of adhesive to the back of the heart, and then I took my ribbon and I just laid it across one way, then just had it hanging over a little bit, came back the other way, and then came back this way. So you get sort of like a, and then you can trim off if it's too long on the ends. You don't want it that long, you can always trim it off. So I'm going to look and see. I think I will trim just a little bit so it's not hanging off the card. And this ribbon is also from the All My Love bundle. It's in that suite of products. And then I'm going to put Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. I think I'll put one right in the middle just to make sure it all stays. Pulling it off with my fingers. Stop. Okay. So this kind of just goes at an angle this way. Okay, and this heart, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this side because to match that height, but I will just put some adhesive on this side so it can stick. So that's going to go up there. Okay. Oh, you know what? I forgot to cut out one more little heart, which I'll do. Okay, so we've got our sentiment, and that, again, I'm going to attach and just put a dimensional on this side of it so that it's at the same level, and adhesive on the other side. Let's make sure I put it on the right side. Just put some adhesive here. Let's see, I want that to be on straight. And I'm going to cut one more of those little hearts, and that too is from the Stitch labeled framelits. It's this little heart here I forgot all about. And there's my little pink piece. Sorry about that. There's always something, no matter how hard I try. But we're almost done, so here we go. And I'm just going to use a glue dot to stick that on the edge of my sentiment. I'm just going to stick that right there. And there we are. So they're pretty much the same, but a little different. Utilizing that longer die in the Stitch label framelits, just trimming it up a little bit, adding some different interest. But there you go. So that's the first project. Again, you can go to my blog, stampingthecape.com. I'll have the PDF over there with all the product list and measurements and whatnot. And don't forget to place your order with my hostess code for this month by January 30th. And I'll send you the supplies for this project and 2 more. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.